All right, coming back at you on Inside Wrestling Radio. It's the interview portion of the program. Real pleased and real happy to have a guy who I'm just a huge fan of here on the interview section of the program this week. Davey Richards. He's a Ring of Honor. He's worked for several promotions. He's done all kinds of tournaments. Prior to entering wrestling, he was an accomplished amateur wrestler. In high school, he also has extensive training in Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. He began his training in 2004 with Tony Kozina. He debuted in June of 2004 in Pro Wrestling War in Washington. He's currently under contract with Ring of Honor, and he also wrestles for several other indie organizations such as PWG, 2CW, and he's wrestled internationally for Pro Wrestling Noah. Right now, I love, and it's my honor to bring to the show Davey Richards. Davey, how you doing, my friend?
Good to be here.
Dude, it's just really awesome to have you here. What you got going on? How you feeling after the big pay-per-view last week?
That one, it's more beat up than usual. That one took a lot out of me. I got a tooth loosened and my back's kind of messed up. So yeah, pretty proud, but paying for it.
I'll tell you right now, I've gotten a lot of good feedback about that match. So you guys just really, and from I didn't see the show, unfortunately. I wanted to. I had some other things going on, but from what I've heard, they put you guys in kind of a bad position because they said the start of the show, all the matches were so hot and so hard, so heavy that kind of put you guys in a tough position. But they said you guys came in and absolutely just stole the show, even after a hot few openers there, and it's really speaks to you guys' talent. I wanted to tell you a quick thing. When you were, I saw your television match you did with your tag partner there for the TV title. And I just got to tell you, I became an instant fan of you. You just did an excellent job with that thing. And my thing was that, now I don't know how you feel about comparisons, and I don't like to compare people to other people, but I always said it looked to me like you could be the heir to the throne of to Chris Benoit. And what do you think about that? You get comparisons like that?
Yeah, I get a lot of comparisons of Chris Benoit and Dynamite Kid, and those are definitely two of my large influences growing up. More so Dynamite Kid than Chris Benoit, but he was definitely in there. And it's a compliment. I separate the man from the wrestler. So just speaking on a wrestling point of view, he was one of the best at what he did. So to be compared, to him is a huge honor.
Sure. Tell us a little bit about your coming up into the business. What got you into the business? What was some of your early influences, and did you always know you wanted to get in?
I never really thought about becoming a professional wrestler. Up until about a month, I went to go train to be a professional wrestler. But I always, me and my grandparents, I had grown up watching it with them, and that was kind of our thing to do. Like some people, they get together and watch Monday Night Football or whatever, or nowadays they watch Dancing with the Stars or whatever, but my family always watched wrestling, and I never really watched WWF growing up. I wasn't a huge fan of that, but I did get to watch like a lot of good, like the old WCW, and I got to watch some Stampede wrestling and things like that were really influential when I was a kid. So those were seeing Dynamite Kid and him being a smaller guy really captivated me as a child. And then when I got done with a couple years of college, I didn't really have, as an amateur wrestler, when you're kind of done with college, you're kind of like, well, it's like you go make money amateur wrestling, and I still wanted to wrestle. I've always been a fan, so I just, kind of, threw my name in the hat and went and found a trainer and got trained.
Sure. Now, how did you come about your trainer there, Tony Kozina? How did you meet up with him?
Well, I actually ended up with Tony Kozina. I started, my first trainer was Paul Orndorff and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker. Down in Atlanta. I was in Washington, and I couldn't find any information on any schools. Tony didn't have a website or anything, so I just typed in wrestling school, and the first thing that came up was a place called WWA4, which the story behind that school is when the power plant, WCW power plant, went out of business. This guy, Frank, he bought the trainers, he bought the rings and a lot of the equipment, and moved it into another facility. And so I went down there and started training. Trained there for a good 6 months, and then came back to Washington because I had a knee surgery. And I then got hooked up with Tony through a guy named Michelle Starr up in Canada, and just continued my training. Kind of finished out with him.
And that's great, man. So you had a lot of extensive training there. Tell us a little bit about the jiu-jitsu and the Muay Thai.
I've always, I've always kind of defined myself as a wrestler. Wrestling was like the one sport that really clicked for me. As a young kid, I tried baseball and football and all those things, and that was, decent to say the best, but wrestling was something that just clicked with me. It was something where I didn't have to rely on a team, and I had as most kids, had a lot of pent-up aggression, so wrestling was really good for me in that sense, and I always, enjoyed just, I don't want to manipulate a ball. It's just me and you out there, and we're just gonna, if you haven't trained as hard as I have, it's gonna show, and vice versa. So I've always been in like combat sports, I guess, in a sense. And then it's funny when everyone was watching the UFCs here, everyone was always enthralled by the big, huge knockouts, and I was always so just absolutely enthralled with like the groundwork, the ground game, and I had heard of like a lot of catch wrestlers, and I was always just thrilled how you can manipulate someone's body, against their own will. So it's one of the first things I did when I came out to St. Louis was I joined a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school that offered Muay Thai. I just really fallen in love with it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like a huge part of my life now. I'm competing in tournaments now. Even before the Ring of Honor show in Chicago, I did a Jiu-Jitsu tournament and plan on competing again in September. I'm testing for my belts and stuff, and it's just it's a good competitive outlet for me because sometimes in pro wrestling it's very difficult for me to have like the outcome of a match be predetermined, which I know that's part of the game, but sometimes I need that balance in my life to where it's just like my fate's in my own hands, kind of speaking. Jiu-Jitsu gives me that. Sure,
Davey, it sounds to me like a little bit you may be thinking about kicking around going into some UFC stuff. You see that in your future, maybe?
Yeah, my coaches have definitely put that out there, and it's a definite possibility. At the present moment, I'm just focused, on earning my next belt in Jiu-Jitsu and, winning my next tournament. So right now, just Jiu-Jitsu, but there's definitely, those thoughts are definitely there.
Sure, that's fantastic. I'm glad you're looking at broadening your horizons there. Tell us about Ring of Honor. How'd you get to Ring of Honor?
I had always been, because I started training, pretty late, so they had pretty much been around since I started, and ever since I came back from Atlanta, back to Tony's house, he had a bunch of DVDs, and at his house, and we'd sit there and we'd watch them, and I was like, man, this place is awesome, because it was really what I was looking for, because it was really highly athletic, and, it was really based on, it's fixed, but at the same time, it's a competition. It's like me and Roderick Strong always have this thing, like we always try to outdo each other in the ring. Even though we're working with each other, but like we're always trying to outdo each other, and like I'm really big on competition like that. So Ring of Honor kind of came off to me like that, and that was something I really wanted to be a part of. And obviously I was nowhere near ready to be in there, but I got into PWG in LA and kind of cut my teeth and gained a lot of experience. And then I did the Super 8 in 2006. And then a little bit before I did the Super 8, Gabe Sapolsky, who was the booker at Ring of Honor at the time, and called me, and he wanted to bring me in and do a really big angle my first night in. But as Thomas will tell you later, I did a small show in North Carolina the night before against Tony, and I blew out my knee again. I believe it was like in Statesville or something. I can't remember. Thomas will probably know. Yeah. So I had to push back my Ring of Honor debut to June 3rd in Connecticut.
I got you. Okay, David, we're going to hold you up right there. We're up on a break right here. When we get back, we want to talk to Thomas a little bit. And he's made the comment that you were one of the easiest guys he's ever worked with in his time in the business. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to go more into your Ring of Honor stuff and what else you got going on. And I also understand there's talk of retirement in your future. Is there anything to that?
Perhaps. I can definitely speak and clarify all that.
Good. We'll talk about that when we get back. Again, a pleasure to have Davey Richards here. We'll be right back. More Inside Wrestling Radio coming up next.